Hi, this is Doc Jones from the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine. And I'm just puttering around the property today here at Homegrown Herbalist. And I got a new toy. I got this new camera. It's called an Insta360. It comes in this little box. And you can carry the rascal around in your pocket and make videos about stuff when you walk past something you like. So I thought that'd be fun. Evan, my IT genius guy, bought this for us. So we have a new toy. But anyway, I wanted to introduce you to a friend of mine. This is a pine tree. This is a red pine, Pinus resinosa. And it doesn't matter much what kind of pine it is. They're all very similar medicinally. Most of the research has been done on red pine and white pine. But I would use any pine and feel pretty good about it, as long as it's a, North American pine. There's a couple of weird ones that are like sold as ornamentals in flower shops and stuff, and they call them pines. It seems like there's a Norwegian pine that's not really a pine. But anyway, if it's a pine tree growing in your yard, it's okay. And the way you tell a pine tree is they have pretty distinctive morphology. If you look at the needles, they're very long, right? Pine trees have longer needles than their conifer cousins have. And on a pine tree, the needles come off multiple needles from one sleeve, right? This little fascicle here is what they call it. But you'll have, some of them have only one, but some have two, some have three. They have different numbers of needles that come off. And the needle is one of the important medicines on a pine. There's other parts of it that we use too, but the needle is the part that I am most in love with. I really like pine needles, and the reason I really like them is because they're really have an ancient history among native peoples from about every continent in the world that has pine trees. People for thousands of years have used pine needles for respiratory infections. They're also a good expectorant, so they get the goobers and the mucus out of your lungs. But mostly, they're really good at fighting respiratory viruses, okay? The influenza viruses and coronaviruses. I don't know if you've heard of any of those. But we've been having some fun with one of those lately. But coronaviruses are very common respiratory viruses. Most of the head colds you get are coronaviruses. Some of them are rhinoviruses, and there's some others, but a lot of them are coronaviruses. And then, of course, this COVID-19 virus that we have is a coronavirus. But so what do these guys do? Well, they contain a couple of chemicals. One's called shikimic acid, and the other one's called resveratrol. And there's a half dozen others, PC6 and PC7. There's a lot of them that inhibit the virus's ability to attach to the cell membranes. Okay, and so what does that mean? Well, what that means is that the virus can't infect you, right? Or it can't infect you to such a strong degree. The viruses aren't even living things. They're little codes of DNA or RNA, depending on which kind of virus it is. And that genetic material is like a blueprint, right? It's instructions telling cells what to do. Our cells have all of our DNA in them. And every morning they wake up and they say, what's my job? Well, I'm a saliva cell, so I'm going to make saliva, or I'm a mucus cell, or I'm a hair follicle, or whatever. And they read their little blueprint and they make, whatever they're supposed to make that day. Maybe it's a hormone, maybe it's who knows what. But when the virus attaches to the cell and injects its little code, it changes the blueprint. So the cell wakes up and says, oh, I guess we're not making mucus today. It looks like here that we're making an RNA virus. I wonder what that is. I don't know. Come on, boys, we're going to make this today, right? And the cell starts cranking out, influenza viruses or coronaviruses or whatever the virus is. And so if we can inhibit the cell from attaching, if we can inhibit the virus from attaching the cell, then the cell doesn't get that weird genetic code poked into its blueprint, and it doesn't make viruses for it. Okay, so that's good. That inhibits the virus's ability to infect us and to reproduce. So pine trees are good for that. The pine needle. Pine needle is also an extraordinary source of vitamin C. So if it's wintertime, if it was the apocalypse and you were living in the mountains, to hide from the mutant biker zombies that had overtaken your town, then pine needles would be a good source of vitamin C in the winter. because they're there all year. You know, they're green. And so if you're up there in your cabin and your teeth start getting loose because you're getting scurvy because you don't have enough vitamin C, make a tea out of pine needles or just grind them up and put them in your smoothie or something, and that's a good vitamin C source. Way more vitamin C than citrus has. I mean, there's a lot of vitamin C there, and there's other vitamins too. But anyway, so let's go look. There's somebody else I want to introduce you to. We're just going to borrow one of these from you. Is this okay, buddy, if I steal one of those? All right. We're just going to walk around here. Oh, there's the cat. Hello, the cat. So this is a spruce, all right? And a spruce has a very different needle structure, but they're cousins, all right? And as I said before, remember that the pine needles come off, and they're long, right? If you look at the difference in the needle length with these little spruce guys, the pine needles are long, and you have more than one needle coming out of one fascicle, out of one sleeve, right? On the spruce, it's only one needle coming off, right? And they come off the entire length of the branch. You know, the whole branch is covered with needles instead of just having little tufts of needles here and there like the pine trees have. But these spruce needles have the same ingredients. You know, they have the shikimic acid and they have the resveratrol and they have all those, a lot of other good things in them. And so they're used pretty much interchangeably. The spruces, the pines, the firs. There's a lot of these guys that are very similar. They're all cousins, and they can be used pretty much interchangeably. Like I said, the needle's the medicine for the respiratory viruses. And you can use those needles in a number of ways. How are you going to get them into your body? Well, it doesn't matter very much how you get them into your body, right? Just like it doesn't matter very much how you get to the grocery store. You can ride your bike, or you can take your car, or you can fly in on a helicopter. It doesn't matter. Once you get to the grocery store, you got what you need, right? And so, same thing with the herbs. You can take the needles and dry them and grind them up and put them in your smoothie. You can make a tea out of them. You can make a tincture out of them. I mean, you can spread them on your peanut butter sandwich, which wouldn't be very tasty. That's probably not the way I would do it. But anyway, lots of ways to get the herbs in you. But, you know, the spruces are good. The pines are good. And these are resources that are available all year. You know, they're better in the spring probably when there's more chemicals, you know, in the leaves, and they do pull some of that stuff back in the hard winter. But man, if that's all you had, that's sure what I would use. I wouldn't worry about it a bit. But anyway, pine and spruce for respiratory stuff, and both of those plants have a very good needle for respiratory viruses.